Greetings and welcome to the 78th episode of Retro Rant. For this one, we will be taking a look at a modern point and click, Perfect Tides, released in 2022 for PC by Meredith Gran. If you haven't figured it out by now, I am a huge point and click fan, but following the 2064 read-only memories fiasco, I was not very eager to spend $15 to blindly get a new game from an unknown, at least to me, developer, so I decided to go the intelligent route, which obviously means checking out the online reviews. And guess what? Every reviewer was raving about this game. AdventureGamers.com gave it 4.5 stars out of 5, rating it as excellent, featuring simple but abundant puzzles. Okay, this is a specialized adventure game website. They know their pointing and clicking, so I decided to buy it and immerse myself in this excellent, filled with puzzles, point and click. The game is set in the year 2000. You control Mara. She is a teenager who resides in a small island town along with her mother and brother, having lost her father some years before. Mara dreams of becoming a writer, having earned something of an online reputation by writing fanfic on a forum. She is quite socially awkward and angsty, and she only has a few friends and no experience with the other sex. You have to guide her through a whole year of game time in which she will experience various adolescent situations, which of course I am not going to spoil here. The graphics of Perfect Tides are not spectacular, but they are very likable. The sprites actually remind me of Willy Beamish, and the various backgrounds change depending on the season and the time of day, although some seasons' color choices can feel a bit muddy and hard on the eyes. Animation is sometimes okay, sometimes it leaves a lot to be desired, but hell, this is no biggie for a point and click, right? I'm afraid that the sound is below average for this one. Most of the game is played in silence, and this doesn't help very much since it diminishes interest and immersion in the game. When there is music, it feels somehow hollow and sloppy and usually borderline annoying. There are some bleeps when you perform an action that progresses the game, reminding me of good old Sierra games. And the Sierra influences don't stop with that, since the control system is also directly copied from later SCI games, with the icons with the actions appearing on the top of the screen while you can cycle through them with the right mouse button. Exits are sometimes shown with the cursor turning into a red arrow, which is a nice feature, but it is unfortunately used inconsistently in the various locations. You can choose your responses during dialogues, and this has consequences regarding your relationships with the various NPCs. In my favorite pastime of nitpicking, I found the text skipping a bit twitchy, and more than a few times I missed some text because of that. So far so good, but what about the actual gameplay, the story, and the abundant puzzles? I will start with the writing. The AdventureGamers.com review boldly states that Perfect Tides is a triumph of good writing. Well, I wouldn't call the writing a triumph. It is actually quite good, but far from being amazing, let alone a triumph. Reading the descriptions and the dialogues was quite enjoyable, although there were a few typos here and there, which will be hopefully patched in a future version of the game. The storyline is pretty much what you would expect from a story focused around a teenager during the 2000s, full of delicious things like angst, outbursts, nostalgic references to music, internet culture, politics, and so on. If you enjoy this premise, you will probably have a great time with this game. Personally, I find it a bit meh, but I was already aware of the setting in my infinite wisdom, so I cannot fault the game. What I enjoyed most about Perfect Tides is the fleshing out of the characters. Despite the game's appearance, the important NPCs are not cartoony caricatures, but three-dimensional entities which evolve along with the relationship with Mara. Is your brother a lazy, bossy piece of crap that enjoys himself by making your everyday a torture, or is he just protective and trying to shelter you from harm, going out of his way to awkwardly become the father that you don't have, himself trying to cope with the feelings of loss and responsibility? There are no clear answers on these questions, and this makes the characters more lifelike and enjoyable, so I cannot praise this side of the game highly enough. One exception in this, though, is the protagonist, which, although a naturally angsty teenager, she's simply selfish and unbearable throughout the whole game. Easily one of the most unlikable characters I have ever seen in an adventure game, sometimes reaching George Stobart levels of awfulness. Her only saving grace is her cute social clumsiness at times. And the gameplay of Perfect Tides is simply laughable. Apart from one puzzle, the rest are either obvious everyday problems or chores, or having to talk to a character or lead them into a place so that the time and story progresses. Most of the game you will be wandering around the island trying to figure out where the next trigger is. There are instances where the trigger is hidden in places that had nothing before, without any indication that anything has changed. Yes, I cannot believe it, this is goddamn Cruise for a Corpse again, although this time in a Beverly Hills 90210 edition. What makes matters worse are the optional puzzles. You see, you can happily finish the game and don't know that you missed quite a few puzzles. Some of them are apparent after the first playthrough, some of them are not so apparent. Getting the best ending requires solving these puzzles as well as specific dialogue choices. But I have stopped caring during my first 30 minutes into the game, so I don't think I will be eager to try and reach the best ending. Of course, actually caring about the character and the setting is not a prerequisite from me to really enjoy a well-made adventure game if one features good puzzles and a sense of accomplishment, like Anna's Quest, which is truly an excellent title. I can also forgive mundane or non-existent puzzles if the game's setting, atmosphere and writing compel me to keep playing, like Dreamweb. Perfect Tides features decent writing but fails to deliver on all of the other fronts. I have to add some instances of pixel hunting because of course there is no hotspot indicator and a huge amount of backtracking, of course without a map or a fast travel method, and we have ourselves a boring game with tedious gameplay and an unbearable protagonist. And this is my overall impression of the game, even though the developer shows a lot of promise. There is already a successful Kickstarter for a sequel, which I will be following but without holding my breath. 4.5 stars, yeah right. At least Perfect Tides is better than Willy Beamish, but then almost every adventure game manages to reach the lofty heights of being better than Willy Beamish. So that's it for now. Please make better software buying decisions than me, and I'll see you next time!